The market was alive with cruel voices. The air was heavy with smoke and the smell of oil. Cages stood in long rows, each filled with frightened beings from many worlds. Chains rattled whenever one of them moved. Guards shouted, buyers laughed, and the auction bell rang again and again. In one of the cages sat a young alien girl, her skin pale blue, her eyes full of fear. She had been taken from her home, her family gone, her freedom stolen. She had seen others dragged from the cages, never to return. She knew what happened to slaves. She had heard their screams in the night. She kept her head low, shaking, wishing to vanish. The auctioneer's voice roared, "Next prize, strong and young, perfect for labor, perfect for pleasure, perfect for pain." He pointed at her cage, and cruel cheers filled the air. The girl froze, her heart beating fast. She thought, "Who will buy me? Who will break me? Who will end me?" Bids began at high numbers, alien lords raising hands. Some shouted, some laughed, some whispered ugly promises. The girl closed her eyes, tears sliding down her face. She prayed it would end quickly. She prayed she would not feel much. Then, through the crowd, a strange figure entered. He was not like the others. He was human. A middle-aged man with lines on his face and tired eyes. His clothes were simple, not rich, not proud. The crowd mocked him. "Look at this weak human. Why is he here? He has no power, no credits, no worth." But the human said nothing. He walked to the front, his steps steady, his eyes fixed on the cage. When the auctioneer shouted the next price, the human raised his hand. The crowd laughed harder. Is he mad? Does he plan to die with his toy, foolish creature? The bidding rose higher, but the human did not stop. His voice was calm, his eyes firm. One by one, the other buyers pulled back, bored or angry. Finally, the hammer fell. The Ausu. Tyranny sneered. "Sold to the weak human." The cage opened. The girl trembled. Guards shoved her forward, chains clinking around her wrists. She looked at the man with terror. In her mind, she thought, "This is worse. Humans are cruel. Humans are strange. He bought me for pain." She wanted to run, but her legs felt heavy. The man gave the guards his credits, then took the chain in his hand. But he did not pull her roughly. He only said, "Come." His voice was quiet, not harsh. The girl followed, shaking, waiting for the strike, waiting for the cruelty. They left the auction hall, the noise fading behind them. The streets were dark, lit by red lamps. Shadows moved across the walls. The girl looked around, searching for a way to escape. But the human walked with calm steps, never hurrying, never dragging her. At last they reached a small transport, old and worn. He opened the door and let her inside first. She sat in the corner, eyes wide, her chains heavy. The man sat across from her, silent. For a long time the ship was filled only with the sound of the engine. The girl could not hold her fear. She whispered, "What will you do to me?" The man looked at her for the first time, his eyes deep and tired. He said, "Nothing you fear." She shook her head, not believing. "No one buys a slave to be kind. You will hurt me. You will use me." His voice was steady. "I did not buy you to harm you. I bought you to free you." The girl blinked, confusion and fear mixing. She thought, this must be a lie. No one frees a slave. No one. The man leaned back, his gaze distant. "I once lost someone I loved to these chains. I could not save her, but maybe I can save you." The girl felt her chest tighten, her thoughts racing. Could it be true, or was this only a cruel trick? The ship lifted into the black sky, stars shining through the window. The girl hugged her knees, her heart pounding. The human closed his eyes, silent again. She stared at him, unsure, afraid, and yet a small seed of doubt grew. Doubt not in him, but in her fear. And as the ship left the cursed market far behind, the girl whispered to herself, "Why would a human risk all this? For me?" The man opened his eyes and said softly, "Because you deserve to live free." The girl's chains felt heavier than ever, but for the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, they would not stay forever. The ship drifted through the endless dark of space, stars burning far away. The alien girl sat in silence, her wrists still locked in heavy chains, her eyes sharp with fear. The human sat across from her, hands resting on his knees, face calm but tired. For a long time, neither spoke. The only sound was the hum of the engine. She could not understand him. Why had he bought her? Why did he speak of freedom? Why did his eyes carry sorrow instead of hunger? Every master she had ever known smiled before they struck, laughed before they hurt. But this man did not smile, and he did not strike. That made her fear him even more, because she could not predict him. At last he stood, walked to a small box in the corner, and pulled out food. He set it in front of her, warm bread, clean water, simple fruit. The smell filled the cabin, her stomach twisted with hunger. She wanted to grab it, yet she sat still. In her mind she thought, this is a trick. If I eat, he will laugh, he will punish me. The man said nothing. He only pushed the plate closer. Minutes passed, her hunger stronger than her fear. Slowly, with trembling fingers, she reached. She took one piece of bread, waiting for the strike, waiting for the cruel hand. But nothing came. The bread touched her tongue, soft and real, and for the first time in many nights, she felt life return. She ate, tears sliding down her cheeks. The man did not watch her. He looked out the window into the black sky. When she finished, she whispered, "Why?" He turned his head, his voice steady, "Because no one deserves chains." She shook her head, her voice rising. "Slaves are bought for labor, for pain, for pleasure, never for kindness. You lie, you play with me." The man's eyes narrowed, his face shadowed with grief. "My wife. She was taken, chained, broken by those who called themselves masters." His hand tightened into a fist, knuckles white. "I swore if I ever had the chance, I would break even one chain, even if it cost me everything." The girl felt her heart beat faster, but her mind resisted. She whispered, "Humans are weak. Everyone says this. You will die, and I will die too." The man's lips curved in the smallest of smiles. "Maybe humans are weak in body, but not in spirit." Before she could answer, the ship shook. A red light flashed on the console. Warning alarms filled the air. The man rose quickly, pressing buttons, his voice firm. "Stay back, don't move." The girl gripped her chains, terror returning. On the screen appeared the image of a patrol ship, marked with the cruel symbol of the slavers. A voice crackled through the speaker, sharp and mocking. "Human, we detected your purchase. We must inspect the slave. Open your ship now." Her blood turned cold. This was it. The truth revealed, she thought. He will hand me over. He will betray me. I was a fool to believe even a word. The man answered, his tone calm but iron beneath. "She is mine, purchased lawfully. You have no claim." The voice hissed back. "Law means nothing here. Open the door, or we will cut you open." The man's fingers moved fast on the console, changing codes, hiding signals. The girl watched, confused. Instead of opening the ship, he was blocking transmissions, closing every path. She whispered, "Why do you resist? Why not give me away?" His voice was sharp now, burning with anger. "Because I did not save you to lose you in the next breath." The patrol ship drew closer, weapons hot. The Gerhardt. Elle trembled, her chains clinking. The man stood, pulled a small weapon from his belt, and handed it to her. Her eyes widened in shock. No master gives a slave a weapon. He met her gaze, steady and unbroken. "I am not your master, if they board. You defend yourself, not for me, but for you." Her hands shook as she took it, the weight heavy and strange. Something inside her chest shifted, not trust, not yet, but something close. The alarms grew louder, the patrol ship demanding, "Last chance, human, open or die." The man smiled, not cruel but cold with defiance. "I have faced death before. I do not fear it now." He pressed a final switch, engines roared, and the ship leapt forward, breaking through the net of the patrol. Shots of fire streaked past, the hull shaking, the stars turning in wild blur. The girl gripped her seat, the weapon in her hands, her heart racing. Was this madness or was this freedom? Finally, the patrol ship faded behind, lost in the darkness, their signals jammed, their anger echoing uselessly. The human leaned back, sweat on his brow, his breath heavy but calm. He turned to her, his voice low. "You are safe for now." She stared at him, chains heavy, weapon clutched, mind torn between fear and wonder. For the first time she whispered not to him, but to herself. Could it be true? Could he truly want me free? But before any answer could form, a new sound echoed. A knock, sharp and hard, on the outer hatch. The man's face darkened, his hand sliding to his weapon. The girl's eyes widened in terror. The voice outside growled, "Inspection! Open now!" The knock on the hatch grew louder, echoing through the small ship. The girl froze, her chains heavy on her wrists, her new weapon cold in her hands. The human stood tall, his face calm, though his eyes burned with focus. He whispered, "Stay silent." Another voice joined the first, rough and cruel. "We know you hide her, human. Open the hatch or we cut it open." The girl's heart pounded, fear choking her. Throat, she thought. It is over. He cannot fight them all. He will give me away. But the human moved with steady hands, pressing switches on the console. The ship hummed as hidden panels slid shut, sealing doors, masking signals. He leaned close to her and whispered, "When I tell you, hold tight." Before she could ask, the hatch shook, metal screaming. The intruders were cutting their way in. The man slammed a button, and the floor shifted. The ship roared as engines fired at full power. The intruders stumbled, their voices fading behind as the small craft shot into the dark sky. The hatch glowed with sparks, but they were already far, leaving the hunters behind. The girl gripped her seat, chains rattling, eyes wide with terror. The stars blurred around them, lines of light stretching as the ship jumped into hyperspace. Her stomach twisted, her mind spinning. She had never felt speed like this, never felt such escape. She whispered, "Where are we going?" The man answered simply, "Away from them, to where their laws cannot reach." Hours passed, the ship steady again. The girl sat in silence, still clutching the weapon. She watched the human, trying to understand him. He checked the ship's systems, patched broken wires, wiped sweat from his brow. Not once did he look at her with cruelty. Not once did he demand her obedience. And that made her more afraid than anything, because kindness was something she did not know how to trust. Finally, she asked, her voice shaking, "Why risk so much for me? Why not just take your credits and live?" The man looked at her, his eyes tired but steady. "Because life built on chains is not life at all. I will not stand by while they destroy another soul." She stared at him, her lips trembling. No one ever says such things. No one fights the slavers. Everyone fears them. His answer was soft but sharp. "Then let them fear me." Before she could reply, alarms flared again. The screen lit up with the image of a massive alien warship, its shadow filling the stars. A voice thundered, deep and merciless. "Human vessel, you carry stolen property. Surrender the slave girl now and we may let you live." The girl's blood ran cold, she thought. "This is the end. No one escapes a warship," she whispered. "Give me to them. Maybe they will spare you." The man's jaw tightened, his voice cutting like steel. "I did not free you to throw you back into their claws. I would rather die than hand you over." The warship fired a warning shot, fire burning across the stars. The small ship shook, alarms screaming. The girl screamed too, clutching the weapon. But the human's hands moved fast, pulling levers, twisting controls. He did not aim to outgun the warship, he aimed to outthink it. He cut the main lights, powered down one engine and let the ship drift. The sensors of the warship scanned, showing only wreckage. "Target destroyed," their voice declared, cruel and careless. But in the shadow of a nearby asteroid, the human reactivated power. The small ship slid like a ghost into the field of rocks, unseen. The girl gasped, eyes wide with disbelief. "You fooled them." The man gave a small nod, his voice calm again. "Strength is not always in muscle or weapons. Sometimes it is in patience, in knowing when to fight and when to hide." Her mind swirled with confusion. This human was nothing like she had been told. No chains, no cruelty, no mocking laughter, only quiet defiance and endless courage. For the first time, she began to wonder if he was truly what he claimed. But the danger was not gone. The warship lingered near, patrols scanning the asteroid belt. The girl looked at him, her voice low. "We cannot stay here. They will find us." He nodded, eyes sharp. "Then we go deeper." The ship slid between jagged rows. Each movement precise, one wrong turn and they would be crushed. The girl held her breath, her chains clinking with every tremble. The human's hands never shook. His eyes never left the path. Through the chaos of stone and shadow, he guided the ship like a man born to it. At last they broke free, the stars opening wide before them. The patrols behind lost their signal, their prey gone. The man leaned back, letting out a long breath. The girl stared at him, whispering, "You risked everything for me again." He met her gaze, quiet fire in his eyes. "I told you, you are not a slave anymore." But in her heart, the battle was not so simple. Her chains were still on, her fear still heavy. She wanted to believe, but belief was dangerous. And yet, as the stars stretched before them, she felt something she had not felt in years. Hope. Then the console flashed red again, a new signal breaking through the silence. The voice of the warship commander growled across the comm. "You may run, human, but you cannot hide. We will find you, and we will take her back." The girl shivered, clutching the weapon tighter. The man's jaw set firm, his voice steady. "Let them try." The warship's voice echoed through the small cabin, cold and heavy. "You cannot hide, human. Give her back, or burn with her." The girl trembled, her chains biting into her wrists, her weapon shaking in her hands. She looked at the human, waiting for him to break, waiting for him to surrender her. It was the way of the galaxy. No one resisted the slavers for long, but the man's eyes did not waver. His voice was calm, steady as stone. "I will not give her to you." The girl's breath caught, her chest tight with fear and confusion. Did he not understand the size of the ship hunting them? Did he not see the endless guns that could rip them apart? The warship fired again, blasts of light slicing through the dark. The small ship shook violently, alarms flashing red, metal groaning under the pressure. The girl screamed, clutching the seat. "We cannot fight them, we will die." The man turned to her, fire burning in his tired eyes. "Maybe we die, but we die free, not on our knees. He pushed the controls forward, diving the ship toward a burning star field. It was madness, the girl thought, pure madness. Great rivers of fire stretched across space, unstable plasma storms swirling like oceans of flame. The warship slowed, unwilling to chase so deep. But the man did not slow. He pressed further, weaving the ship between storms of fire. The heat burned through the panels. The engines screamed. The girl held her breath, her heart pounding. Every second she thought the ship would explode. But still he guided them forward. Behind them, the warship roared, sending fighters into the flames. Tiny hunters darted closer, firing shot after shot. The man's hands moved fast, rolling the ship, cutting through gaps only a heartbeat wide. The girl cried out, "We cannot win. They will destroy us." He answered, "Then we make them bleed before we fall." He flipped a switch, releasing small mines from the ship's hull. The hunters chasing too close exploded in bursts of fire, their wreckage spinning into the storm. The girl gasped, shock mixing with fear. She had never seen such defiance, never seen someone face death with steady hands and burning will. But then, a blast struck true. The small ship spun, sparks flying, smoke filling the cabin. The man gritted his teeth, fighting the controls, but blood dripped from his shoulder where shrapnel had cut deep. The girl screamed, rushing forward. "You are hurt," he growled. "Stay back, hold your weapon. If they board, you must fight." Tears blurred her vision. She had spent her life powerless, chained, beaten, never trusted with choice. And now this strange human, this foolish human, told her she must fight, not for him, but for herself. Her hands shook as she raised the weapon, pointing at the sealed hatch. She whispered, "I cannot." His voice cut through her fear. "You can. Because you are more than chains, because you are alive." Outside, more fighters closed in, lasers slicing across the shields. The man pressed buttons, diverting power from life systems to the engines. The cabin grew colder, lights flickering. The girl's heart raced as shadows wrapped around them, the firestorms outside glowing like demons. "Why risk so much?" she whispered. His answer came like a blade of truth. "Because no life is worthless, and I will not let them take yours." The girl stared at him, her fear breaking under the weight of his words. She thought of all the years in cages, the endless nights of pain, the hopeless whispers of the other slaves. No one had ever said she had value. No one had ever chosen to protect her. And this human, weak and mocked by all, chose her life over his own. Another blast shook the ship. A panel burst open, fire spilling across the floor. The man fell to his knees, blood running down his arm, his breath heavy. The girl rushed forward, grabbing the controls with her bound hands. He shouted, "What are you doing?" She answered, her voice shaking but firm. "If you fight for me, I will fight for you." She pulled the lever as he guided her, the ship swerving hard, slipping through a storm of burning plasma. A fighter followed too close and was swallowed by the flames, destroyed in an instant. The girl gasped, her chains rattling. She had done it. She had saved them, even for just one breath longer. The man smiled through his pain. "Good, you see now. You are not weak. You are not nothing." Her chest tightened, her eyes burning with tears. She had been nothing for so long, but now, in this moment, she felt alive. Not free yet, but alive. Behind them, the warship still loomed, its voice breaking through the calm. "You cannot run forever, human. Surrender or burn." The girl looked at the man, her voice trembling. "What do we do?" His answer was sharp, steady, filled with fire. "We choose. We fight, because freedom is worth the flames." The girl gripped the weapon tighter. Her chains no longer felt as heavy. The ship dove deeper into the burning storms, chased by endless fire, and for the first time she whispered, not in fear, but in defiance, "Let them come." The cabin smelled of smoke and burning wires. The ship shook as sparks rained from the ceiling, engines coughing, shields almost gone. The human sat slumped in his chair, blood dripping down his arm, his face pale. The girl knelt beside him, chains rattling as she tried to press the wound, her hands trembling. "You are bleeding. You cannot fight like this," she whispered. His eyes half closed, but his voice still sharp. "Do not stop. Keep us moving. They will not give up." The girl turned to the controls, fear choking her. She had never flown a ship, never even touched one before this night, but his voice echoed in her mind, steady, firm, refusing to break. She grabbed the handles, her bound wrists awkward. The ship spun as enemy fighters closed in, red fire streaking across the void. Her breath came fast, her heart a storm. "I cannot do this," she cried. "Yes, you can." His voice came weak but certain. "Trust yourself. Trust me." The girl pulled the ship up, too sharp. Alarm screamed, but the fighters overshot. She gasped, shocked at her own survival. Another blast came. She rolled clumsily to the side, scraping against a burning plasma field. Flames licked the hull, but the ship held. The fighters circled back, angry shadows in the storm. Her hands shook, her chains heavy, but her spirit burned brighter than fear. She thought, If I do nothing, we die. If I try, maybe we live. The human coughed, his blood staining the floor. Good, keep going, do not stop. Her eyes narrowed. She pressed forward, weaving through burning trails of plasma. The fighters followed, but one by one they fell, crashing into fire, colliding with rocks. The girl's body trembled with every movement, but her mind sharpened with each escape. For the first time, she felt power in her hands. Not chains, not helplessness, but choice. Finally, silence. The radar cleared, the fighters gone, the warship far behind, slowed by the storm. The girl let out a long breath, her chest rising and falling fast. She turned to the human, eyes wide. I did it. We are alive. His lips curved into the faintest smile. Yes, you did. You saved us. Her throat tightened, tears filling her eyes. All her life she had been told she was nothing, weak, worthless, only fit for chains. But tonight, she had fought, and she had won. The man tried to stand, but his wound was too deep. He staggered, almost falling. The girl rushed to him, catching his arm. Sit, please. You cannot move. You will die if you push. His eyes met hers, filled with pain, but also with something else. Trust. I need you now, more than ever. Can you guide us to land? Her fear returned like a tide, but she nodded. I will try. With his weak instructions, she steered the damaged ship toward a small green planet hidden in the storm's shadow. The descent was rough, the ship breaking through the atmosphere with fire licking its hull. The ground rushed up, the girl screamed, but somehow they landed, crashing hard into soft soil. For a long moment, silence. Smoke rose from the broken ship, the sky above filled with stars. The girl crawled to the human, shaking him. Wake up, please, do not leave me now. His eyes opened slowly, his breath shallow. I am not gone yet, he whispered. She helped him out of the wreck, dragging his weight with her thin arms. Every step burned, but she did not stop. They reached the edge of a forest, tall black trees swaying in the wind. There she laid him down, pressing cloth to his wound. Her heart raced, her mind screaming. She had no medicine, no tools, only will. As the night grew colder, she searched the wreck for anything useful. She found old rations, burned wires, broken panels, nothing to heal him. Despair bit into her, but then she saw something glowing in the distance, a cave, faint light shining from within. She whispered to herself, maybe hope lives there. She returned to the man, touching his face gently. I will not let you die, not after all you have done, not after you gave me more than chains. For the first time, she realized her words carried truth. She cared for him, not as master, not as savior, but as someone who had given her life again. Her eyes hardened, her voice steady. If you saved me, then I will save you. The girl lifted the weapon he had given her, holding it firm. She stepped toward the glowing cave, fear in her bones but fire in her heart. Inside, she found strange marks, broken cages, signs of other slaves once kept here, and voices, faint, weak, but alive. She froze, realizing she was not alone. Other captives, other broken souls hidden in the cave. They looked at her with hollow eyes, fear and despair the same she once carried. One whispered, another slave captured like us. But she raised her head, weapon steady, chains rattling. No, not a slave, not anymore, and neither are you. The cave fell silent, their eyes widening. For the first time, she felt no fear in speaking. She had chosen her path, not chains, but fire, and now she would carry it for them all. The cave was silent except for the faint breathing of the captives. The girl stood at the entrance, chains stayed. L on her wrists, weapon clutched tightly in her hands. The freed slaves stared at her with wide, hopeless eyes, their bodies thin and broken from years in cages. They whispered to each other, afraid to believe, afraid to trust. One old alien shook his head, his voice weak. You cannot fight them, child. No one fights the masters. No one wins. The girl's heart pounded, but she raised her chin. I thought the same, but I was wrong. I saw one human fight them. I saw him risk everything for me, and now he bleeds out there because he would not bow. The captives muttered, some turning away, some watching her more closely. Another voice came, sharp with bitterness. A human, weak as all humans are. You believe his lies. He will fail like the rest. The girl's grip tightened on the weapon, her chains clinking. He is not weak. He showed me what strength truly is, not power over others, but courage to stand even when alone. Her words echoed in the cave, stirring something faint in the broken hearts of the captives, but their eyes still held doubt. No one believed in hope so easily. Not after years of pain. The girl's gaze hardened. If you stay here, you will die in cages again. If you come with me, we may die too. but at least it will be on our feet, not our knees. For a long moment, silence. Then one small voice, a child's, whispered, "I want to fight." The sound cut through the cave like light through shadow. The others looked at the child, then at the girl, and slowly, hope flickered. Fragile, but alive. She led them back toward the wreck of the ship. The human lay where she had left him, pale but alive, his breath shallow. When he saw the captives, his eyes widened, but his voice was weak. "You brought them." The girl knelt beside him, pressing his hand. "You saved me, now we save them." The human's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Good, then you are learn." Ink. Together they searched the wreck for scraps of weapons, for tools, for anything they could use. Broken panels became shields, pipes became staffs, scraps of metal sharpened into blades. The captives trembled, untrained, weak from hunger, but the girl stood tall among them, her voice steady. "We fight not because we are strong, but because we are tired of chains." That night, the sky burned red as the slaver patrols landed on the planet. Their warlord had tracked the human ship, fury driving him to crush all resistance. Hundreds of armored soldiers marched across the fields, weapons glowing. The girl watched from the trees, her chest tight with fear. Behind her, the captives shook, whispering that they should run, but she turned to them, her chains glinting in the starlight. "You are not slaves anymore. You are free, and freedom is worth any fire." Her voice carried like thunder in the silence. For the first time, the broken ones lifted their makeshift weapons, their eyes shining with something new, not strength, not yet, but will. The battle began in shadow. The girl led the first strike, her chains whipping across a soldier's face as she struck with desperate fury. The captives followed, clumsy but fierce, their cries echoing in the night. The slavers roared in anger, shocked that their prey dared to bite back. Blasts of fire lit the forest, trees burning, smoke filling the sky. The human, too weak to stand, lay hidden in the wreck, his voice breaking through the calm, guiding her step by step. "Strike from cover, never from open ground. Use the shadows, make them chase you." She obeyed, her heart pounding, her body moving faster than fear. For every captive that fell, another rose, rage stronger than despair. The warlord himself entered the fight, a towering beast in black armor, his voice thunder shaking the ground. "You dare defy me, slaves, I will grind ye." I went to dust. The captives froze, their courage trembling. The girl stepped forward, chains heavy but spirit fierce. She shouted, "You call us weak, but it is you who fears us. Because if even slaves can rise, your empire will fall." The warlord roared, swinging a massive blade. The girl dodged, barely alive, the weapon grazing her skin. Pain burned, but she did not fall. Behind her, the captives screamed and charged, their fear breaking under her fire. The forest became a storm of battle cries, weapons clashing, chains snapping, hope born in blood. At the heart of it, the girl fought with all she had. Every strike, every cry, every step was for more than herself. It was for the ones who had no voice, for the ones who had died in cages, for the human who had shown her she was more than nothing. And as the warlord's blade crashed down again, she raised her chains to block, her arms shaking, her body burning, but her eyes did not close. The night sky blazed with fire, the weak rising against the mighty. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, the slavers saw something they had never expected. Fear in their own hearts. The forest shook with fire and steel. The warlord towered over the battlefield, his armor black as night, his blade glowing red with the heat of slaughter. Slaves turned fighters screamed and clashed around him, but one swing of his weapon cut through three at once. He laughed, cruel and merciless. "You are insects, nothing more. You dare to rise against me." The girl stood at the front, her chains wrapped around her arms, her weapon gripped tight. Her body ached, her skin burned from cuts, but her spirit did not bend. She looked at the warlord, her voice shaking but steady. "We may be weak, but weakness is not the same as surrender." Behind her, the captives shouted, their voices raw but fierce. "No chains, no masters, no more the so." Unrose like thunder, and for the first time the warlord's grin faltered, but his rage returned quickly, his voice booming, "Then you will die in fire." He charged forward, his blade slicing through the air. The girl leapt aside, the ground exploding where she had stood, her chains whipped out, wrapping around his wrist. He pulled, dragging her close, but she used the momentum, striking his helmet with all her strength. The impact rang like a bell, sparks flying. The warlord staggered, then roared in fury. From the wreck of the ship, the human's weak voice echoed through the calm. "Stay light, stay fast, do not meet his strength head on." The girl breathed hard, her eyes narrowing. "I will not," she whispered, more to herself than anyone. She darted between strikes, her chains deflecting, her body moving with desperate speed. The warlord swung again and again, but she refused to fall. Around them, the captives fought too, emboldened by her courage. Each scream, each strike, each cry pushed the slavers back step by step. But the warlord's power was great. With one brutal swing, he sent the girl crashing into the dirt, her weapon flying from her hands. Pain exploded through her body, her chains digging deep into her skin. The warlord raised his blade high, ready to end her. He roared, "This is your freedom, death on your knees." But before the blade could fall, a shot rang out. The warlord staggered, his armor scorched. From the wreck, the human had crawled out, his body broken, his blood staining the ground. But in his hands, he held a blaster, aimed with trembling arms. His voice cut across the chaos. "Humans never kneel." The captives roared, the battlefield shaking with their cries. The girl rolled to her feet, grabbing her weapon again, her chains rattling like thunder. The warlord turned in fury, charging at the human. But the girl leapt in front, her voice a scream of defiance. "You will not take him." She struck with all her strength, her chains wrapping around the warlord's blade. He pulled, she held them. Our struggle echoing like a storm. The human raised his blaster again, firing, each shot burning deeper into the warlord's armor. The captives surged forward, striking together, no longer afraid, no longer silent. The warlord roared, his power cracking, his armor breaking, but still he fought, his fury endless. The girl met his eyes, her voice sharp as steel. "You called us weak, but you feared the day the weak stood together." With one final cry, she drove her weapon into the gap in his armor. The warlord screamed, his body shuddering, his blade falling from his hands. The captive struck again and again until the giant fell. The ground shook as his body crashed down, silence falling across the battlefield. For a long moment, no one moved. The slaves turned. Fighters stared at the fallen warlord, disbelief in their eyes. Then one voice shouted, trembling but fierce, "We are free!" The cry spread through the survivors, echoing into the night. "No chains, no masters, we are free!" The girl dropped her weapon, her chains broken, her body weak. She turned and rushed to the human who had collapsed on the ground, his eyes half closed, his breath shallow. "You did it," she whispered, kneeling beside him. "No," he said softly, his lips curling into a tired smile. "We did it." Tears filled her eyes. She pressed his hand to her chest. "You did not just save me. You gave me back hope. You gave all of us hope." His eyes closed slowly, but his voice lingered. "Then promise me you will never kneel again." Her voice broke, but it was steady. "I promise." The dawn rose over the broken forest, light shining on faces once bowed in despair. They stood together, no longer captives, but free. The girl looked at the horizon, her chains lying shattered at her feet. She whispered, "The weak are only weak until they rise." And in the silence that followed, the chant grew once more, "Humans never kneel, humans never kneel."